Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin just called out what she sees as chaos in the VA, firing and rehiring employees, losing trust, and risking veterans' lives. And her words? It's sloppy, and you know it. Let's unpack why this exchange matters far more than just a shouting match.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to recognize the chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing. I think it is a bipartisan goal to support our veterans. And I think it's one of the first hearings I've had where after confirmation hearing, we've brought the secretary back in short order, so I appreciate that. Secretary Collins, during your confirmation hearing, you assured me and the others here that, quote, the mission is the veteran, and, quote, that you would not sacrifice the veteran. I took you at your word, as did many on this side of the dais. But since you've taken office, you've heard it, you moved to terminate VA contracts, offered to buy out VA employees that were in already shortage situations in those career fields. You placed a hiring freeze on critical VA employees serving veterans. 2,400 recent VA hires were let go, and then I think because of the courts brought back. You've been here today doubling and tripling down on that. I have no problem with cutting fat in the VA. I worked at the Defense Department. If someone had said to me, cut fat, I know exactly where I'd cut. But it's the nature of the cuts. If you're firing someone on a Friday and they're being brought back on a Monday, no CEO in America would be lauded for that kind of sloppy cuts. And then when you came to Michigan, you came to Howell, Michigan, I think in the last month and a half, you were asked directly about the potential for 80,000 additional employees to be cut. And instead of pushing back, you just said, quote, there's going to be a lot of friction. And I understand that you're wordsmithing things to say that no nurses or doctors in the VA facilities are going to be touched. That is good, but I held a roundtable with veterans. These are folks who are in the business, and their concern was that if you are a veteran and you walk into a VA, in Iron Mountain, and you need to get a claim, you put in a claim to get a knee surgery, and there's no claim caseworkers, there's no people working on those claims, and it takes you 2 years to get an answer, that's also not access to care. The doctors and nurses may be there, but if you can't go in and you're in pain every single day, that is also a problem. It's a problem for veteran center staff who have not been excluded, primary care administrators, IT staff. I know it's wonky, but you've just accelerated the electronic health record transition. I think IT staff are important if we're gonna make sure we don't lose records of our veterans. And then benefit claims administrators. These are all people who kind of don't meet your criteria to be saved. We all wanna serve the mission of the veterans, but what was really strange was that we had the deputy chief medical officer up here for a hearing, and we said, what's the plan on cutting this potentially 80,000? Have you been consulted? And they said very clearly no. So I'm having a problem understanding how I'm to believe that the veterans in Michigan are going to get the same or better care, which is what we want, when you seem to be sort of, I don't know, you're claiming that these 80,000 are like DEI and interior designers. There's no way that all those 80,000 are in those job fields. So help me understand how you're going to preserve that veteran who needs this knee surgery, but there's no one to process his claim.
Thank you, Senator. I think there's a lot to unpack there, and yes, the mission is the veteran. And I think I want to go back to one of the statements you made earlier. If you said DOD, you worked in DOD, you could go in and find it. If I would just happen to turn the table and say, if you came to work at VA, you'd probably be able to do the same thing. For sure.
I don't have a question with that.
So I think that's.
But 80,000 is different than cutting. I mean, and I think again, any CEO in America who fires people on a Friday and rehires them with back pay a week later would be fired from their job. It's sloppy, and you know it.
I think I'll disagree with the judge's decision there and continue the appeals process on that. So, I mean, look at it from that perspective as we go forward. But also, again, when you look at these issues and you look forward, I mean, it's interesting to me. I would just be curious, and I'm just playing the scenario out. If you go into DOD, it's 20,000 a proper number? Is 50,000 a proper number? Is 10,000 a proper number? At the VA, we exempted over 300,000 positions to ensure patient care, patient quality, and disability benefits were being done.
So how come there were people fired and then rehired from the Veteran Suicide Hotline? Like, you've acknowledged, I think, even publicly, that some of these things were a mistake. It doesn't give us confidence that an 80,000 number, which is just a number, you didn't say career fields, you didn't say whatever, you just said 80,000, that's being done with a scalpel and not a sledgehammer. And I think for veteran care, again, it's not me that's the only one asking these questions. It's veterans who have a very different political view than me, who are getting seriously agitated back home. So I just don't understand the logic behind a across-the-board haircut.
Well, I think the biggest thing is what you're looking at here is, I think right now there's been, because that's what I've had to fight for the whole time, is to fight this idea of just being blanket numbers throw out, playing Trivial Pursuit with numbers and others that have scared veterans. So honestly, what are they going to hear? If all they hear from people is, if you cut this, then it's going to actually impact my health care, then what are they actually going to think? Because one, they've not seen a plan. You've not seen a plan, because we're still working a plan. I'm not going to play out a plan in public that would actually take employees. You wouldn't do it in your own office.
And I know I'm over, but it is playing out in public
goal.
because you have fired people and then they have been rehired. That's not a secret plan. People in my district, Marines, veterans, have been fired from their VA jobs and then brought back. So it's not that there's some sneaky plan. You're in it. You're living it, and you're living the sloppiness of it. So I'm sorry, I know my time's over, but I can't agree that the 80,000 is going to be a nice, trim scalpel approach.
We'll just have to agree to disagree, Senator.
Senator Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Collins, the President's budget calls for a nearly $5 billion increase for the VA.
What you just witnessed wasn't just another heated exchange, it was a reckoning. Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin wasn't pulling political punches here. She was cutting straight into the moral and managerial heart of a problem that's far too often brushed aside: how bureaucratic chaos in the VA translates directly into human suffering for the very people this country calls heroes. Slotkin's frustration wasn't about politics, it was about trust. She's saying, you made promises to veterans, and instead of trimming fat, you're cutting into bone. Because when 80,000 potential job cuts hang in the air, when caseworkers, IT staff, and benefit processors are slashed, it's not efficiency. It's erasing the human infrastructure that keeps the VA alive. And she's right to call it sloppy. When you fire people on Friday and rehire them Monday, it's not reform, it's panic management. It shows a government that's tinkering with the lives of veterans without a plan, without consultation, and without accountability. Think about what that means on the ground. A veteran in Michigan waiting 2 years for a knee surgery claim because there's no one to process it. A hotline worker laid off and then reinstated, with the backlog still growing. These aren't statistics. They're veterans waking up every day in pain, losing faith in a system that's supposed to stand by them. Slotkin's line, "It's sloppy and you know it," captures something deeper about leadership in Washington. It's about how easy it is for agencies to talk about numbers while forgetting those numbers are people. It's about how a $5 billion budget increase means nothing if it's mismanaged, and how the rhetoric of efficiency too often becomes a smokescreen for disarray. At the end of the day, this hearing was a warning. You can't serve veterans by destabilizing the very system that supports them. Accountability has to be more than a soundbite. It has to be a plan. And that's the lesson here. When government gets sloppy, it's not politicians who suffer. It's the veterans. It's the people who already gave everything, just asking for the country to keep its promise. If you believe that our veterans deserve more than bureaucratic chaos, that they deserve dignity, precision, and care, then make sure this story doesn't disappear into the next news cycle. This is Left Lens. Stay sharp, stay informed, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep analysis that goes beyond the headlines.